and defamatory.
You are claiming that we are doing sex for grade, and yet the person involved is not even my student. It's a bogus work done by BBC. I have not done the kinds of things that they said I have done. And I'm saying that it is somebody's agenda to push that angle just to be able to silence me. But I remain committed and resolute.
We are live on campus as university authorities meet over the matter, and here's some reactions. Plus, the Foursquare Gospel Church asks Nigerian professor cited in the documentary to step aside.
Also tonight, as a tenure of assembly members and unit committees at MMDAs expires today, local government ministry warns chief executives against abusing their offices.
So the chief executive, coordinating director, and other members of the assembly who are under the local government have to go ahead, carry on their duties as required under the law. Where they need the approval of the assembly, you have to wait for the assembly.
And then later, disregard any document seeking to introduce comprehensive sexuality education in Ghana. President Akufo-Addo tells the Bono House of Chiefs as he affirms he will not allow it under his watch.
Meanwhile, the Council on Curriculum Assessment says the developed guideline on sexuality education is undergoing review for a final decision to be taken.
So what we hear now is that the document has to be submitted for assessment. GS has raised concern in aspect of it.
And in business, government target completion of major ongoing road projects this year as it moves to avoid unplanned expenditure in the election year.
Later in sports, we'll hear from Ghana Football Association presidential aspirant George Afriyie on his ambitious policy of paying footballers $1,000 per month salary.
And later in the bulletin, as part of our Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we bring you a tip a day on the Breast Cancer Minute on Joy News. Yes, your tip.
You know, we always talk about a lump when we talk about breast cancer. If you don't touch it, you wouldn't notice that lump is there.
Is that true? You heard the songwriter.
I don't speak tree properly, so I'm not sure I understand it. But News Night was brought to you by Puma Card. MFI was trying to entrap me. Puma Card, cash-free convenience. Want to join us to use comments and say WhatsApp 0244-340-437. My name is Evans Mensah.
I am MFR Powell.
We followed up allegations against Professor Ransford Jampo, a political scientist and a well-known commentator. We sent an undercover journalist posing as a student at the university, and he agreed to become her mentor. A few weeks later, Professor Jampo called on a Sunday afternoon asking to come to her home. She managed to persuade him to meet at a mall instead. Throughout this meeting, he made numerous inappropriate remarks. He also asked her to marry him. He then said he wanted to kiss her. As she began to leave, Professor Jampo made one last move.
Portions of a BBC investigative piece making the rounds has already got tongues wagging and sparked debates across the country, especially on our university campuses. BBC Africa Eye documentary is targeted at lecturers in some West African universities who've been harassing their students for sex in exchange for grades. Ghana's premier university, the University of Ghana, has been hit hard in this documentary with two of its well-known professors, political science lecturer Ransford Jampo and College of Education lecturer Paul Kwame Butako implicated in the investigations. Professor Jampo has vehemently denied the allegations, describing the content as bogus, untrue and defamatory. Listen to my interaction with him as he hints of suing the BBC.
It is defamatory. I have not done what they claim I have done. And so tomorrow we'll file our suit against them. I am sure you are discerning and I'm sure you've seen what they put out there. I have not gone to have sex with anybody and I have not gone to change anybody's grade. How can you talk about sex for grade relationship between a lecturer and somebody who is not his student? How can you talk about that? You are claiming that we are doing sex for grade and yet the person involved is not even my student. How do you establish that kind of thing? So it's a bogus work done by BBC. I told them right from the onset. I gave them my side of the story. They decided not to listen. I'm reliably informed that some people are behind them and they just wanted to tarnish my image. But let it be put out there that these things do not do anything to me. I've had text messages and WhatsApp conversations that suggest that, well, some people just simply want to bring me down. And BBC themselves said it, that we learned you are powerful and influential, and so this is what we want to do.
Prof, a few questions comes up speaking to you. First of all, I would want to find out who could be behind this, because you've said that it looks like there's some people behind you. Suspect that people are behind it because you're being powerful or you're too powerful. Who could be behind it? Who comes to mind?
I can't. I'm not.
No, you're saying that the BBC told you that amongst others,
in one of
they feel.
their letters, it's important that you come to see the exchanges between me and them if you have time, so that you can make an informed opinion, about some of these things. But I seriously think that some people feel that I'm too loudmouthed, because over the years I've received threatening text messages will kill you. I've received threatening text messages that we know how to silence you and all that. So they know how I relate with my students. That is why.
How do you relate with your students? Because it's said that there's no smoke without fire.
Well, they know how I relate with my students. I say this to mean that I have a very cordial and very courteous and respectful relationship with my students. And that is the reason why, if you can just come and do a sample of the kind of student that I teach and let them give you their impression and comments about me. I treat them with respect, genuine affection, and I do what I can do just to be able to help them.
Have you had cases of students at least throwing themselves at you, for instance? Because you say that they remain allegations, but our checks also reveal, at least you've been monitoring the talk on social media among some students who do not want to also come out. It looks like it's not a genuine affection that you have with your students as well. It looks like it goes beyond the genuine affection you talk about.
I'm disappointed if you say that, because I can only tell you what I know. I can only tell you what I've experienced. You know that there was once that somebody made this wild allegation against me. When I was going to sue the person came to apologize. You can just Google accuser apologizes to Prof. Jampo and you see what I'm talking about. As you saw in the video, I have not done the kinds of things that they said I have done. And I'm saying that it is somebody's agenda to push that angle just to be able to silence me. But I remain committed and resolute. I will not be dragged. I will not be distracted, and I'll continue to do what I know how to do. If it is true that I've done that, let the person establish a studentship, and let the person take me on with the university processes and all that.
Okay, so you have not been engaged in any sex or grade scandal. You have not had sex with any of your students in exchange for grades.
Please, I haven't done that.
At this point, will you be able to challenge any student who would say that you have had sex with her in exchange for grades to come out?
If there is anybody with that, with that case, they know the right channels. They should use it. The university's door and systems are open, so they can just go and report. But I'm saying that I've done this work as a teacher for 14 years. I haven't had that single case of that allegation being formally documented or written, against me. Apart from people just saying things just to be able to drag my name in the mud. And I understand the game better than they do, and I'm not bothered about this.
Well, the BBC just uploaded the entire documentary. It's almost an hour long. All that you've seen is 30 minutes, and the Jampo's bit, which is 1 minute or less. Just go onto the pages and you see the entire thing, which has just been released in the last few minutes. Joseph Akable has been studying correspondence between Professor Jampo and the BBC during and after the investigations, and he's in the studio with details of what he's found. The university is probing the issue already, correct?
Yes, and we learned this from a mail that Professor Jampo sent to the BBC. We must state that these are emails that Professor Jampo himself made available to us. If you recall, at that interview with MFR Power in the afternoon, he did indicate that he had documents that he was willing to share. So these are the documents. We cannot confirm whether it's indeed interactions between he and the BBC, but this is what he gave us, that's mail that he sent to the BBC. And so this one is dated 28th September 2019. Sent addressed to Andy Bell, Executive Producer, African Eye, BBC. And the very first paragraph, it says, thank you for your letter and opportunity given me to respond to its contents. I must state that the Vice Chancellor of the university in which I work, that is the University of Ghana, also wrote to me requesting a response, and I have obliged. I respond to your letter as follows. And so that indicates that indeed something is happening at that level. And
also today, we've been checking with school authorities and the University of Ghana. There's a committee called the Anti-Sexual Harassment Committee. They have some very eminent professors and lecturers on that, many of them women. very well-known lecturers who are already on that committee, and they have a policy in place that they are dealing with. From what my sources tell me, under this particular vice-chancellor, at least 2 lecturers have already been sanctioned. In one case, in 2 of the cases, I understand, have actually been dismissed from the university because of these some of these allegations that were made against them, probed and sanctions applied. There was a disagreement, we understand now, between the BBC and Professor Jampo about whether the lady was a student or not. And this is a lady seen in the video with him. And the allegation is that this is a student. He says it's not. What was the disagreement about?
And so, per the mail, the BBC maintains that the lady had introduced herself to Professor Jampo as being his student, but he says that is not the case. In fact, he makes reference to 2 interactions. That part of the mail says, with regards to her studentship, she indicated that she was pursuing a program in marketing and journalism. I do not recall which university, but I know the University of Ghana doesn't run any course in journalism. I received many requests for interviews from students of the Ghana Institute of Journalism as a normal practice. I demanded to see identity cards before granting the request. I therefore asked Abigail for her student ID card, but for some reason she didn't produce the card because of the flow of the conversation that had started. He goes on to say that on a different occasion, the lady who interacted with him had said that in the presence of his 4 assistants, that she was also a journalist conducting a research about the draft Public Universities Bill and had monitored his media interactions.
Okay. So his contention is that this lady didn't present herself as a student of his.
Yes.
And she did, but BBC claims
disagrees and makes the point that he had actually met him after one of his classes and had made the point that this was your student.
Well, I mean, let's see if BBC can produce the evidence to back their side of the case, because it's the Jampo's word against theirs. But the fact is that we know now the lady isn't actually a student, right? Because
Yes.
it says an undercover
Yes.
investigator. He also told the BBC his marriage proposal to the girl was a joke. If you watch that less than 1 minute clip that has been circulating, he's alleged to have said in that he will marry this girl.
In fact, that part of the mail here says, I am therefore surprised, Andrew, that in your letter you stated that I was only interested in discussing sexual matters with Abigail. Yes, I told her she was going to be my wedded wife along the line in our informal conversations in my office in the presence of everybody there. But this was a meaningless joke. Abigail, through our conversations, knew I am not single. Besides, I jokingly referred to all my assistants in my office as my wedded wives. I remember on one occasion when Abigail visited, I told them that she was going to be their rival, a third wife, and we all laughed it off. I do not see how this amounts to harassment, particularly when the supposed victim never objected to the joke.
I see. He also dared the BBC to interview people he had worked with closely, but also had the BBC to investigate the issue again.
Yes, in fact, in terms of daring them to interact with those he had worked with, he provided contacts of individuals that he said they are national service personnel who left his office quite recently. He gave their names and their contacts. They are stated in the mail, saying that they can go ahead and engage them if they want to, and they will find out that he's not someone who harasses individual. He goes on to say that he has worked at the University of Ghana for 14 years and no complaint of sexual harassment has been lodged against him. He says he has not been investigated and sanctioned by the university ever, not because he's above the laws of the university, but simply because he does not harass his students. He concludes by saying that, in light of all that I have said, I respectfully urge you to further investigate my segment in your film in order not to dent my reputation, particularly that of my university. Should you decide to ignore my side of the story and my call for further investigations, I will not on my own sue you and your outfit for defamation, as I am aware your outfit is well resourced and capable of paying whatever damages and compensations one may demand.
And now we know the documentary has been aired. In fact, it's been uploaded fully now. And he's told you, MFA, that he will sue.
Yeah. But Joseph, how long ago was this correspondence between Professor
This one
Jampo
is
and the
dated
BBC?
28th September 2019. We have another that is dated 3rd October 2019, which essentially repeats the same issues he had raised on the 28th of September 2019, because he was saying that despite the representations he had made to them and the responses he had provided, they were still not convinced and were still maintaining their position and going ahead with what they intended to do, for which reason he sent this 3rd October 2019 mail and making the point that he stands by what he had told them, and still urging them that he thinks they should investigate the matter thoroughly, as the evidence they had captured, he doesn't think corresponds to the allegation they were making against him, that indeed he was engaged in sex for grades.
Okay. Well, there's been a number of reactions following this, and we know that the BBC has since uploaded it. We'll get to Nancy Emefa-Dwadosi shortly, because she's been on campus all day prior to the screening. But Isaac Ajiman is the Student Representative Council, SRC President for the University of Ghana, and he's calling for an investigation into the allegations, and if proven, appropriate sanctions proffered.
Right from the onset, these have been allegations, these have been speculative remarks that have been on the tongues of various people over the years. But at this juncture, I think realities are now glaring. I mean, in the alleged video that in a way doesn't, to a large extent, proves either someone is guilty or not until the law actually comes out to make such pronouncement. But when I saw an excerpt of the video, I was really shocked. I didn't know it would get to a time when I would actually have realities glaring in my eyes. I believe justice would be served. I believe the fragments of the laws are explicit, and in the university's codes of conduct and ethics among lecturers also goes on to suggest what a lecturer is to do or what senior management members are to do and not to do. So of course, I see that in the coming days, as an SRC, we would actually advance this course, because our students are much involved in this. If it has happened to someone who is, of course, what about our students who have also been victims of these circumstances? So, of course, in the long run, we as an SRC are taking a stern position on this, that should anyone be found culpable, the person must be made to face the full rigors of the law.
Well, that's the University of Ghana SRC president speaking to my colleague. As I indicated, there's a committee that has already been working on dealing with these issues on the University of Ghana's campus. Dr. Margaret Amakohene chairs the particular committee, and she joins us on the telephone line right now. Dr. Amakohene, thank you for your time here on Newsnight.
You're welcome.
So first, what's the committee's reaction to this revelation, the BBC documentary?
First of all, I must say that we have yet to view the documentary itself. But before its airing, the BBC sent the transcript involving the two gentlemen to the Vice Chancellor. And the Vice Chancellor asked them to respond and give him copies of their response. So we have been part of the response that was crafted for the BBC. And in fact, I just got home from another meeting, because we know that after the airing of the program, there's going to be a lot of questions and answers. And I've just returned home. So what we intend to do is to investigate the matter, follow our processes, and if these gentlemen are found culpable, recommend appropriate sanctions to the Vice Chancellor to apply, because he's the chief disciplinarian of the university.
From what we understand, your committee has been working long before the BBC matter came to your attention, correct?
Yes.
And I also understand that, in fact, in some cases, you've made similar recommendations, and accused lecturers who were found culpable have been sanctioned already.
Yes, some have been dismissed already. In some cases where there was proof that students were about to suffer because of their rejection of advances, scripts have been sent to other places to be marked. So we actually investigate those cases that are brought to us, and depending on the gravity of the case, make appropriate recommendations to the VC as to what sanctions to apply. This committee has been, first time it was put together was 2011. And the policy itself came into being in 2010. It was revised in 2015. And next year it's scheduled for revision again. So we've been actively working. It's not, the university will not say that these are cases that don't happen. But you see, you can only investigate when there's proof. And in fact, in our response to the BBC, we asked for the evidence that they have to help us with our own investigations. And initially, now they've said no, and so they want us to properly apply for it, which we are going to do. And if they bring it to us, then that's the evidence to proceed on. Otherwise, we will need to look at whatever is aired tonight and see how much of the tape involves the two gentlemen and what exactly their culpability is in. And so then what we are doing is gathering information to be able to prosecute this case, because if you don't have enough evidence, really, it's difficult for you to proceed.
Let's talk about these two lecturers, though, Professor Butako and Professor Ransford Jampo. You've talked about hearing cases of or similar cases. Have we had any case involving these two professors brought to your attention before?
Unfortunately, none has been brought to our attention. None.
But now that they are under investigation, like you say, because you are still gathering information, and if you find anything substantial to investigate them, what happens to these two professors while investigations go on?
Well, I think the senior management of the university will soon make a decision, and you will know what the decision is. The appropriate things will have to be done. If they are found to be obstructing the processes that we are going to pursue, then the investor will have to take the appropriate measures. But it's not for me to decide. It's for senior management to decide what to do. Ours is to take the evidence we have and to begin our investigations. And in fact, we've already started with the investigations.
But there must be some laid down procedures when you are investigating a lecturer in such cases. What happens?
What happens is that, and it just doesn't have to be a lecturer. Any case of sexual harassment or misconduct, first of all, we encourage the victims to approach any member of the committee. And this is a committee of 14 members. In fact, we become 15 since last year. And once you approach the person and narrate whatever the incident is, the person will urge you to put it in writing. Because we need it in writing to be able to circulate among all members. And each communication we have with perpetrators and with victims, the VC is copied, the registrar is copied, the Pro VC in charge of academic and student affairs is copied. And so when you write to us, we make these copies available to everybody. And then we also take it to the alleged culprit. So the perpetrator is given a copy to respond within 7 days. And the person responds. Based on the response and what the victim sent to us, we are likely to invite each of them at separate times. Usually it's the same day, one comes after the other, for them to then present their cases to us. Because sometimes what we have in writing is not exactly the situation they are painting. And then also to enable the committee members to ask questions to understand what exactly is at stake. And then we talk to both of them, one after the other. And there are situations where it gets to a point where the two of them face off. And you'll be amazed at how first-year students and second-year students will face off with their lecturers and be so bold because they know the committee is there to support them. So this is the process. Then we set up a committee, an adjudication committee of 5 members. Sometimes the whole committee decides to be the adjudication panel. We investigate the case, and if there's merit, sometimes the person who is culpable admits his or her fault, and then we look at the gravity of the situation and recommend to the VC what the sanction should be. But I must say that in the cases of sexual harassment, really, usually it's difficult to prove because you have one person's word against the other. And oftentimes, the person says, you did it, this person says, no, I didn't do it. But we listen to them carefully, and that's the point of the interaction. And you know who is likely to be telling the truth and who is likely to be lying to you. I mean, just about 2 semesters ago, somebody's appointment was terminated. The person was just close to retirement. It was terminated. Okay? So it's not as if the university doesn't take these cases seriously. The university takes them very seriously. And that's why a whole committee is investigating.
And Doug, based on all that you've heard during this work with the committee, how pervasive is this problem?
How
pervasive is the problem? Is it such a big deal? Is it something that has really infested?
How pervasive is the problem?
Yes.
Did you say pervasive?
Yes.
It is pervasive. It is pervasive. Not just lecturers and students. Students to students. Workers, staff, non-teaching staff to other staff. So you find those that are reported to us are just few cases. Many times you hear of things that are happening, but of course you cannot chase after the wind because you need somebody to come forward and to make the report. And when the report is made to us, we investigate. In fact, for the past 3 weeks or so, we've been very active, including periods when we're on vacation. Because when we are on vacation and you are still a member of this community, sexual harassment and misconduct that involves you also is part of the things that we investigate. Because you are still a member of the community. And so we call you and let you know this is what has happened, and we're going to call you, we're going to write to you, and when we write to you, we want you to give us a response in 7 days. And we actually send you an email with the complaints, and then we ask you to respond to us in 7 days. And that's what we've been doing. Okay. So it's not only from lecturers that you find culpability. You also find it among students.
Well, Doctor,
you find that.
Doc, I'm grateful that you joined us with those thoughts. We'll wait to see once that you've watched the entire thing, what the university decides to do going forward. Dr. Margaret Amakohene is chair of the anti-sexual harassment committee in the University of Ghana, and she'll be my guest on PM Express tomorrow as we begin to digest this particular matter a bit more. Very quickly, the University Teachers Association, the two lecturers who have been accused are their members. Dr. Samuel Akambon is the UTAC president of the University of Ghana chapter. He's on the line with me. Doc, so what is it that you tend to do? These lecturers are your members. Have you spoken to them already? And what is it that your union wants to do about this?
Well, thank you very much for the time. And unfortunately, I've not spoken personally to the two of them. But I've had quite some comments from Professor Jampo, and I think that we would want to keep to what he's put out so far. Besides that, like my colleague just indicated, we are very much aware as lecturers that we have a code of ethics. We also have these policies. The anti-sexual harassment policy was done in 2010 and then revised into sexual harassment and misconduct policy in 2017. And we are familiar with that. And as UTAC, every year, as and when we recruit new lecturers, we have an orientation program for them. And these are made very clear to them that these are the do's, these are the don'ts within the university campus. And so, particularly so with relationships with ourselves, relationships with other workers, relationships with students. And so it is something that lecturers are aware of.
It appears that they are aware of it, but it's not stopping them from harassing the students.
Well, of course, we even as a country, we have laws. Then people commit the laws, they go to the law court, they are found guilty, and they are sentenced to prison. And so it's no guarantee giving the information to individuals and ensuring that the individuals will not do as you have said it is not right for them to do. Be as it may, we are not endorsing the fact that, or we are not certain about the details of what is in the video that we are all yet to have full knowledge of. And so we are cautious as to what we should be saying.
Okay.
Granted, we also are of the view that indeed, if it's the case that our students and our lecturers are engaged in this banter of if you were to have sexual affair,
sex for grades,
good grade, then of course UTAC condemns that outright as something that is against the policy that we have signed up to as lecturers.
Doc, I'm grateful that you joined us with your thoughts. Nancy Amefa-Jadrusi, you spend the whole day on the campus of the university. What are students saying about this?
So basically, students are saying that this is nothing new. They in fact, they share stories of their roommates telling them about what goes on. In fact, some of them told me that one girl was going out with this lecturer, and then when she finally got to level 400 and she had to graduate, the lecturer asked her to get a replacement.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. So some of the stories you hear, they tell you about them, but they cannot speak about it because they're scared that they'll be victimized. I also got a chance to meet a few lecturers, and guess what? Some of them were asking me whether they were in the video.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They were
asked
afraid
me,
they were the video.
They were asking me whether I've been able to see the entire documentary. Because, they said, it's not like we've done anything, but you may never know.
Oh, my goodness.
So it's being big on campus. Everybody's talking about it. Even parents, students and lecturers walk to you. The moment you see you with the microphone, they want to find out what is happening and whether they're complicit in all of that.
It's shocking. I mean, and Dr. Marco makes the point that it's pervasive. It's something really that's happened on a big scale. No wonder the lecturers who have names have been come out yet are worried whether their names will come out. As part of this, so thank you, Nancy. You were a student yourself there until very recently. You know this firsthand.
Did any lecturer make advances at you?
No.
Okay.
You didn't do anything of the sort.
Nothing.
I know you're a good girl. You wouldn't do that.
Nancy, thank you very much for that. And I can see lots of you joining us with your views and comments on this story. And I want to share a few with you on our WhatsApp console right now. Musa says, I've known Professor Jampo for so many years, and I don't believe he can be unethical to do his job as a lecturer. BBC did same documentary on Cambridge University and captured some lecturers in the act but didn't air it. Why are they doing different things in Africa? Why do they always want to showcase the bad things on Africa? Kofi Seru says it's quite ironical that a president who is a lawyer himself and touted as a human rights activist will supervise the brutalities of students who wish to be like him. That's your view on the demonstration that happened today. Farouk says the sex for grade saga is alarming in our universities. Something must be done. But for Professor Jampo, I suspect it is a witch hunt, he says. This one from Adam in North Kaneshi says, this issue concerning sex for grades is not happening. It's not happening in University of Ghana only, but also notoriously done in almost every school. Tutors take advantage of students just for the wrong reasons. It's quite pathetic. The final one from Jagos in this one says the sex for grade issue is very serious, and I know it's going on in most of our tertiary institutions. Also, a few of your views, keep them coming. I'll share more with the rest of the world. By the way, the entire video has now been uploaded on the YouTube channel of the BBC Africa Eye. You can watch it. It's almost an hour. George Affairs here with the latest. Hello, George.
Hi, Evans.
From the world of business, George.
Coming up in business, government targets completing major ongoing road project this year as it moves to avoid unplanned expenditure in an election year. And new IMF Managing Director Christina Dujiva outlines a vision for the fund. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your office essentials. And First National Bank, we are the bank that understands your business. First National Bank, how can we help you?
Everyone says I'm a Kosia filler, but it's not like I'm nosy or go out to find out the latest filler. It's just that I get 50 megabytes of data free after paying for only the first minute of every call. And so I just keep discovering stuff minute after minute. That's how come I was minding my business, scrolling through my timeline, and I found out Coco has a new baby. Oh, and last week, I learned Ken won the lottery. You see, Ken is my brother's friend. So hello, look who's about to roll with the rich and famous.
Enjoy even more value with MTN Free After One. You only pay for the first minute of your call on MTN Free After One, and the rest is free. Plus, you enjoy free 50 megabytes worth of data to browse your favorite sites. Compare where, compare there. So dial *315# to sign up. We day for you everywhere you go. Terms and conditions apply.
Kingdom Books this year back to school promotion is in conjunction with Citidia Supermarket. Buy school items worth 100 Ghana cedis from Kingdom Books and get 12% discount voucher to purchase from Citidia and vice versa. School items include textbooks, pens, pencils, erasers, exercise books across all Kingdom Books branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Takoradi, and Cape Coast. Kingdom Books, where quality and affordability is assured. For further information, call 0302 764209 or 0302 746101 and 0501 401050. Terms and conditions apply.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, government has promised to provide the required funding for all ongoing major road projects this year. This will ensure that it closes the chapter on funding for infrastructure projects before it gets into an election year. Successive governments over the years have overshot their budget, which actually has implications for the economy in terms of its stability. But Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta tells Joy Business lessons have been learned to ensure that things are done right this year.
We've been here with some 32 odd months, and I mean the budget deficit, clearly indicates what the capacity to restrain our expenditures, and we have to do that. I mean the roads issue, we are going to solve it this year, which means that tension will be gone for next year, and then we just have to manage. I think there's a certain quietness and firmness at the Ministry of Finance that will go through 2020. To make sure that all of the gains that we have had these 3 years will not be eroded. So far, so good. There's pressure on our revenues. We're working on it, as you know. And we have 3 new commissioners, and Prof. Adai has been made the chairman of that. I think we expect great things from that. And so we tend to increase revenues and certainly hold down our expenditure so that nothing untoward happens. It's a good time. It's good news for us. We're excited about the future, and 2020 will hold our own.
Are you optimistic that revenue things are still going to pick up? Because it's still a problem still.
It is a problem, but all problems, we've met many problems since we came, and we've been able to tackle them. So this one too will be tackled, and it will be done. I'm happy with the new leadership.
The Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. Now, economist Professor Eric Osei-Sibe says the time has come for the district assemblies to improve revenue collected at local level, not to help finance critical projects. He believes this will reduce the pressure on government in providing for social projects, which may end up pushing expenditure off target. Professor Sibe was speaking to Joy Business at the Graphic Business Stanbic Breakfast meeting here in Accra.
We want government to focus more on revenue generation. We want everybody to understand that we need to pay our taxes. We want the local government system to know that they are there to also not only to wait for government to transfer monies, but they are also there to generate revenue within their communities, so that certain little developmental projects will not have to refer to the central government. They can, at their level, undertake those projects if they are mindful or they are committed to generating revenue and accounting for those revenue and making sure that they have proper stronger expenditure controls and management within their jurisdictions. These things are key.
Economist Professor Eric Osei-Sibe. Now, issues surrounding the cleanup of the banking sector have dominated initial discussions the IMF has had with the Bank of Ghana as they are in town to review the economy. The team has also been in the country since Monday. Have engaged some interest groups, government, civil society groups. We are learning that the team is expected to bring its visit to an end this Friday as they engage the National Petroleum Authority, GNPC, Cocoa Board, Bank of Ghana, the Ministry of Finance, and even have some personal engagement with the Vice President. In a later development, the Managing Director of the IMF, Christina Georgieva, has been outlining her vision and plan for the organization. Speaking in her first interview, she said that she's going to focus on a stable financial system for the global economy.
It is an incredibly important institution. It is at the center of financial stability in the world. And we know that financial stability matters to everybody, because if you don't have it, then lives turn to the worst. And when we have it, economies can build, growth can be sustained, there can be jobs and improvements in the lives of people. So I take my job at the IMF as a huge honor and a responsibility. And what I hope to achieve through the 5 years of my term is for us to be successful.
Kristalina Georgieva is the managing director of the IMF, the new one, speaking in her first media interview. Let's turn our attention to the stock market, and gold was down by a peso to close at 1 Ghana cedi 90 pesos. MTN also went up by 8 pesos to close at 71 pesos, and Standard Chartered Bank shares was down by a peso and is now worth 16 Ghana cedis, 50 pesos. And that's all for Business on Newsnight.
Success of Trusted, innovative financial services, providing affiliation support and solutions, customer-oriented superior services. Your success our passion. 10 good years of loyalty, service with integrity, protective of our Ghanaian brand. 10 years of excellence, 10 years of loyalty. Your success our passion. Oh yeah, your success our passion.
Your success, our passion.
Ma, please give me your phone. Let me make a quick call.
So you're still on that network that gives you fair data and talk time, where Vodafone has double the Red 1, Red 2, and Red 5 offers. For 5 CDs, Chikra. You get 250 minutes to call all networks, 250 megabytes data, and more.
I'm moving to Vodafone today.
Switch to Vodafone to enjoy double Intuswar on red bundles of 1, 2, and 5 CDs. Enjoy double talk minutes to call all networks and double data to browse. Vodafone always gives you more. Dial *200# to subscribe now. Terms and conditions apply. The future is exciting. Ready?
Let's go.
The 4th edition of the Joy Pyramid in Ghana Fair comes up from Thursday 31st October to Sunday the 3rd of November 2019 at the Junction Mall Nungwa Barrier from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. each day. This year's fair is under the theme Branded Ghana for Global Export. To book for stalls and further enquiries, please contact 0556 304521 or 0540 106466. The 4th edition of the Joy Pyramid in Ghana Fair is proudly sponsored by EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and GTP Timeless.
Joy 99.7 FM, radio for the discerning listener.
And you are live on Joy. My name is Evans Mensah.
And I am Emefa Apo. Now, the local government ministry is warning that various chief executives at the Metropolitan, Municipal and District Assemblies against abusing their offices as the tenure of assembly members expires. Government, in a circular, directed that MMDAs across the country, as well as their unit committees, be dissolved today.
Well, this is to make way for the conduct of the upcoming district-level elections. The Deputy Local Government Minister, Obiama, explains why Nkranza South and Lower Manyakrobo assemblies are exempted from the dissolution.
Well, it includes Nkranza North and South and Lower Manya because elections were held on days differently from the general ones. In other words, they have not been in office for 4 years, so their term is not up. And if you look at our local governance act, it says elections to this assembly shall be held once every 4 years. So once your 4 years is not up, you are not required to hold elections again. Those districts had their elections later than the September 2015 that the rest of the assemblies or districts had their elections.
The unit committees and assemblies have been dissolved today. What happens?
The functions of members of the assembly are spelled out in the local governance act. Any chief executive in place is required to perform his functions as provided under the local governance act. Where he needs the assembly to endorse any action, the directive is that because the assemblies have been dissolved, because their term has ended, he cannot take such action. So the chief executive, coordinating director, other members of the assembly who are under the local government service have to go ahead, carry on their duties as required under the law. Where they need the approval of the assembly, you have to wait for the assembly to be inaugurated after the December 17th election.
That's the Deputy Local Government Minister, Obiama. Meanwhile, government control over conduct and operations of Metropolitan, Municipal and District Chief Executives could come to an end if the country votes a yes to amend the Constitution in a referendum on December 17 to make the office an elected one. That will mean that the Chief Executives will be responsible for security and other concerns in their respective electoral areas, and that's a concern for many.
But the Deputy Local Government and Rural Development Minister, Osebun Soama, tells Joy News a bill to situate roles of the chief executives in national development is being worked on for parliamentary consideration when they return from recess.
If we have control and authority over chief executives, when they are elected, we don't have that kind of control because they become elected members. But as we speak, we don't have control over assembly members. The only control we have at the local government level is on the chief executives and then local government service staff. So of course, if they are elected, it will mean that they will not be reporting to us directly. And they would have to, of course, confine themselves within the laws of the country and the constitution, but not report to us directly.
Now, is there a plan to deal with the aftermath of the referendum?
We have what we call the post-referendum program. The post-referendum program would proceed when the people of Ghana would have given the indication that this is how they want things to proceed. Based on that, amendments we have to make regarding the constitution, regarding other laws, policies and programs we have to bring in place. We then follow all those things. So the work doesn't stop during referendum. After referendum, there's so much work we need to do. Because mind you, we are hoping that by 2021, we'll get the MMDCs going to the polls to be elected for their positions.
Well, let's speak to George Che Bafo. He's the local governance expert. He joins us on the telephone line right now. Mr. Che Bafo, this particular issue comes up each time the local assembly elections are near because of the vacuum that it creates. The ministry is now warning chief executives, and when this happens, this vacuum happens, normally who fills that vacuum?
Yeah, thank you very much, Evans, and greetings to your cherished viewers. I agree with you that certainly there's going to be a vacuum, but we will have to place the problems associated with the vacuum that has been created over the years when Assembly's term of office expired on the doorstep of the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission has not been performing its constitutionally mandated functions the way it should. Because if you look at Article 246, it says that elections to Assembly shall be held every 4 years, except that such elections and elections to Parliament shall be held at 6 months apart. What it means, therefore, is that the Electoral Commission, which is mandated to conduct public elections, is supposed to conduct district assembly elections every 4 years. But what we realize is that the Electoral Commission would sit back and wait until Assembly's terms expired, and then it will create the vacuum before the next elections come up. So the vacuums are going to be created, and I don't think it's the best, but that has been the trend over the years.
And who feels it? How is that vacuum filled to avoid problems? Because there's going to be problems.
Well, what it means is that we have institutions within the Assembly setup. The Assembly itself is the highest political authority. It has administrative, executive, deliberative, and legislative functions. And in the absence of the Assembly, the Executive Committee can perform all its functions except the legislative function. So in this case, the Executive Committee is not even available. So what the implication is going to be is that the MMDCs, by their constitutional responsibility in Article 2433, Article 2432B, which says that they will be responsible for the day-to-day performance of the executive and administrative functions of the District Assembly, shall be mandated, as I said, by the Constitution to perform that responsibility. But the legislative function cannot, under any circumstance, be performed by any other body except the Assembly itself. So the vacuum will be much felt when it comes to the legislative authority and functions of the Assembly.
Okay. I'm grateful that you joined us with those thoughts. Let's do sports now. And Hans Mensah-Ando is here with the very latest. Hello, Hans.
Hi, Evans. And your Manchester United over the weekend did their thing.
Again, yeah. I mean, so we are now, I think, 4 points.
2 points of the drop zone.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I think it's 4.
Is it 4?
I think it's 4. I mean,
either way is bad.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm expecting. Yeah. We'll be in a relegation fight.
Okay.
This season,
right.
We'll be fighting to stay in the league. Okay. Can you imagine how the mighty has fallen?
Manchester United.
Yeah.
This looks disunited. But anyway, the Ghana Football Association presidential elections, manifestos and policy documents are being, outdoored. Over the weekend, we saw one in Sunyani. George Friye is the man who launched his manifesto in Sunyani. And one of the key points in the manifesto has to do with a policy that will ensure that footballers are paid $1,000 a month.
we are going to try and attract more sponsorship. This is the only way we can retain our stars from going to Zambia, from going to Tanzania. You see, what I'm trying to say is that by retaining the stars, just remember recent WAFO. Almost every player who played in the WAFO left immediately after WAFO. So I'm saying that if my captain, Samuel Safo of Liberty Professionals, we can pay Samuel Safo $1,000. Why would he go to Iraq for $1,500? So what I'm saying is there are things that are practicable. We are already doing it, but we just need some more.
So that's George Afriyie speaking there, and brilliant plan. Of course, if they are able to implement that one. And Winfred Osei Kweku Palmer, of course, he was disqualified after the vetting process, and he's just tweeted via his Twitter handle at Osei Palmer P4P that we have successfully filed an appeal against the Elections Committee's decision to disqualify Osei Palmer from the GFA presidential election race. We once again urge our supporters to remain calm as we await the decision of the appeals committee. That's your sports.
Thank you very much, Hans Mensah Ando. You know, the president has been touring today, the Bono regions, and amongst others, he's still been talking about the comprehensive sexuality education. He met with the Bono House of Chiefs, and he's saying that he's actually urging the country to disregard any document seeking to introduce a comprehensive sexuality education in Ghana, insisting anything that frowns on the culture and identity of Ghanaians will not happen under his watch. Listen.
Free senior high school Minister Kofo Bibre young person senior high school even though they are not to maka say yeah HBA years again the horse say when you yaka ebegu.
As a government, we introduced the free senior high school program, but there are those on record who have spoken against it and even doubts its sustainability. Some have also adopted a posture of always finding ways to denigrate the program. But as a Christian, I can assure you that under my watch as President of the Republic, I will not introduce anything to our schools that is against our norms and culture. We call it educational policy. And as is the custom, any policy without government approval cannot work. The GES and the Curriculum Board are currently discussing what we call contemporary issues. Once they are done, the report will be brought before us for approval. But as Chairman of Cabinet, I will not approve anything contrary to our belief. I know of people who have developed the habit of misleading the populace, but our schools will not be taught anything that is unacceptable.
But the Executive Director of the National Council on Curriculum Assessment, Dr. Prince Ama, said there's a document that they're working on. Yeah. The document is set for review, after which a decision will then be taken.
The document is not a finalized document. The Ghana Education Service has raised issue with the document. There are issues that the National Council for Curriculum Assessment itself has also raised. For example, we have an issue with the definition itself of what CSC is. So what we have now is that the document has to be submitted for assessment. GS has raised concern in aspect of it. In assessment, what we'll do is that each book has 3 assessors. All of them look through with different benchmark and issues to look at. And then they bring a recommendation. Based on the recommendation, we then write to the originators of the document and say, this is what our position is, and these are the areas that you should look at. Now, once we approve that, once that is done, corrections are made, Ghana Education Service, content areas that they have requested are included. All of this would have been done because they are processes.
So you heard that, Dr. Prince Ama. Now, so is it completely out of the woods? Is it still on the table? What exactly is the situation with this comprehensive sexuality education? Information Minister Kojo Ponkroma provides some answers on the Super Morning Show.
This set of guidelines will come to his cabinet for approval, and when it comes to his cabinet for approval, he will make sure that it doesn't contain anything untoward. By that meaning, what people are worried about, this age inappropriate sex education or pro-LGBTQ content.
So this set of guidelines, has this gotten to cabinet yet?
No, it will come to cabinet. As I think has been explained by the Minister for Education, the NACA boss and all others, they are working on what is now in the public domain, which is a draft. They have expressed their views on it. It will come to cabinet, and cabinet will have an opportunity to approve that set of guidelines. And that's what the president is giving commitment to, that the guidelines that will be approved will not contain any of the things that people fear. And he explained the background and the reasons that he would not subscribe to any such thing.
Now, Mr. Oponkrumah, over the weekend when the education minister was speaking at the World Teachers' Day in Kumasi, he stated that cabinet did not approve these CSE guidelines.
Yes, he was referring to the first time that he presented it to cabinet. And the president mentioned it as well yesterday, that the final version will be approved by cabinet.
And that's Kojo Opon Nkrumah. So we are talking about breasts because, as you know, the month of October is recognized worldwide. Why are you looking at me? Why are you looking at me like that?
Excited.
I'm excited.
The light in your eyes.
No, I'm excited because it might save a life.
Okay.
That's a
Tell
tip.
us about it.
Yes, it's a tip. Today, Dr. Ya Acha Boateng, who spoke on our Health Show Ultimate Health, tells us why it is important to observe and touch your breast as we, continue this campaign to deal with breast cancer. Listen.
Because we don't consciously examine our breasts, we don't usually notice it.
Okay.
When we're bathing, we don't have a mirror. When we're dressing up, I don't think we go and stand in front of the mirror and put on our bras. So we don't really see our breast. Either you observe yourself or someone observes it for you.
Okay.
And then you also need to touch it. You know, we always talk about a lump when we talk about breast cancer. If you don't touch it, you wouldn't notice that lump is there.
Have you done yours? Have you touched yourself already?
I'm yet to do that.
You are yet to? Please do it because we want you alive. And so do it as soon as you
know you're at risk also. Have you touched yours? Yeah.
But lamb?
Yes.
I have to?
Yeah.
I've just done it.
Yeah.
I've just done it. So I've done
Okay.
it. Yeah. Okay. So that's it for Newsnight tonight. My name is Evans Mensah.
I am Emma Falpo.